Lydia Moynihan knows all about this. She's a financial correspondent at the Post and broke this story. Lydia, I had a bunch of my friends over the weekend when they saw this coming saying, oh my goodness, I wish I sold last year. This is a nightmare. How could this be happening? So, is this Mamdani migration a real thing?
I think it is, and I hate to say that. Look, what's not surprising is it in the wake of him clinching that Democratic nomination that wealthy people, really anyone with sort of a vested interest in the city, was exploring options of where they could move. Florida, of course, is a well-trodden path at this point, but what's much more concerning is the fact that people are actually walking away from deals. So people who were either in process of signing and purchasing an apartment or, potentially eyeing buying something in the future, they're walking away. And so for the next 4 months, I think we're going to see a decrease in the investment in New York City. Anyone with a business is going to be a little hesitant. And of course, that's going to be amplified for 4 years.
Okay. They're freaking out. I mean, you guys, the freak out around Zoran Mamdani's win in New York in the Democratic primary. He hasn't won the election yet. The freak out on Fox is amazing. Okay. And it just goes on and on. You know, as we speak, he's working Capitol Hill right now, meeting with Democrats, showing up support. We already heard that Andrew Cuomo suddenly decided he cares about affordability, is going to run as an independent. Of course, Mayor Adams, Mr. Pardon himself, well, he wasn't quite pardoned, is running as an independent. You've got Curtis Sliwa. I mean, talk about a blast in the past. And it is a crazy look. If you study New York politics, it's always a little crazy. Like I actually was part of a mayoral campaign a few years ago. It's something. But I wanted to open you guys on Friday night with the freak out over Mamdani. And it relates to our conversation we're gonna have. But this, as I prepared for the show at the last minute, I went on Twitter. Just Twitter or something. And I found that you guys, if you think Laura Ingraham and the other videos you've seen around of the freak out over Zoran Mamdani is crazy. This was posted. It's just, you, you got to watch this. Okay, trust me. This is magical. Just watch.
Okay, guys, we are right here in Times Square, and yes, the screens are still going strong. Nothing says New York magic. Here we are, the Statue of Liberty. And wow, look at her now, folks, rocking that niqab like an absolute queen. Guys, we're in Central Park, and the vibe is just overwhelming. Spirituality is in the air, and maybe a bit of something else.
Welcome to Fifth Avenue, people, and WOW. Look at these markets just thriving. It's like New York had a baby with Marrakech.
Okay, so now we're in the New York subway. There's Union Square Station. Fast, functional, and you get to share your ride with a camel or two. All right, everyone, THIS is Wall Street, baby. The financial capital of the world. Still standing proud.
Yeah, AI, baby. That is a real video that was posted to the internet. Well, it's not real. It's AI, but that is there's no way to term it better than the Mamdani freak out. And they are freaking the F out. Okay. And I don't even know how to explain it, but I do, as always, as you guys have got used to me here at the Boss Touch, I've got the perfect guest to discuss this and much more. I am Fred Wellman. This is On Democracy FQ Wellman. We're running it live every Friday night at 7 p.m. right here in the Midas Touch Network. I am thrilled to have you guys, thrilled to have the Midas Mighty. We are going to have a fun show, a conversation that matters in a very tough time. Again, let's get on with the show. All right. Welcome. I am still Fred Wellman. I was 20 seconds ago. We still are. I still have a great show for you. Well, you saw the freak out over Zoran Mamdani winning the Democratic primary. He is up on the Hill now talking to folks. I am thrilled to have Amanda Litman is president, co-founder, run for something. She's been working the national levels politics for a long time. Email campaigns for Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, leading one of the leading candidate now today, leading probably one of the top candidate recruiting and training programs in the country. Run for something. Amanda, welcome to the show. I cannot believe you've never been on before.
Thank you for having me. Me neither. That video was wild.
Wasn't that nuts? I wanted you to see it. So behind the scenes for viewers, the guests don't always actually see the opening bit. Sometimes I'll do the interview and then I'll try to find like an opening video. So this is the magic behind the scenes. Well, look, but this one, I said, Amanda's been here for 10 minutes. I said, look, you got to hold on. You got to see this crazy stuff. I mean, isn't that nuts, Amanda? The freak out is unbelievable, isn't it?
Like, he makes them manic. Like it breaks their brain a little, huh?
It's amazing, isn't I've never seen like it. I mean, of course, Zoran, 30 years old. He is a state legislator. He's not new to politics. He's didn't just fall off a truck. He's been here. He's a citizen, all those good things. But and people are freaking out about his win. So you do this for a living. Do you think his win is a wake-up call, a fluke? I mean, how do you interpret that stunning win in the New York primary?
I think it's a wake-up call. I think it's a transformative moment for the Democratic Party. I think as a New Yorker trying to raise my 2 kids
Yeah, you know better than anybody, right? You're here.
like, I wanna be able to stay here, raise my kids here, afford a home here. I think it's amazing for New York City. I think it is such an important moment because I think it shows us that when you have the right candidate, he's a good guy who has a clear value system, who has something he fully believes. He really believes what he believes. Who knows that in fact to communicate with people about the issues, you have to tie it back to why they should want you to win, not just why you want to win. Like Cuomo wants to win because he wants to enact power and revenge. Donnie wanted to win because he wants to make life more affordable for New Yorkers. He wants this to be a place where we can stay and thrive. And who can do that in a way that is personable and engaging and fun and optimistic and authentic. Those 3 things coming together, values, voters first, and authentic and genuine communication, make for a winning campaign that can take on the establishment, that can take on the old guard, and can shock the world.
And I find it fascinating. That's exactly he listened, right? And what he heard was that I can't afford to live in the city I was born in. I can't afford to live in the city I love. I could get a great job, but it's over in Queens, and I live in Brooklyn, and the buses are too expensive. Just transportation alone will eat up an hour or two of my daily work, right? It's as far as like pay goes. So he heard it. He listened to the lived lives of the people he wants to lead, didn't he?
And I think beyond that, he came at it from a place of, I love New York City and I wanted to make it better. So many politicians try to run against the community of Eric Adams and Cuomo are both good examples of this, but we see this from members of Congress and elsewhere. America is a hellscape. It's an urban, danger zone. The subway is dangerous. There's crime everywhere. We're going to fix it. No, actually, you can run if you love the place you live and you think it's possible to improve it. You can run on loving this community, not on being afraid of it. I think that's such a powerful way to tell a different story about what it means to be a politician right now.
I love that angle. It's funny. I had a love mixed relationship with New York for many years. My first wife was from the area. I went to West Point up the river. I spent a lot of time in the city, and then I got drawn back to the city during the COVID crisis. I was blessed to be able to volunteer to lead a COVID field hospital up at the Larkin Field Hospital. I don't know if you were there then, up at Columbia's Baker Fieldhouse. And to be in New York during the COVID, it was terrifying. But every night they would come out and cheer us. The pans were banging. The love for those who would come from afar to try and help New Yorkers survive a crisis was real and felt. And one of my favorite stories at that time, and this is nothing to do with our show, but my viewers are used to me. We had recruited nurses out of nursing school, and we of course that went longer than expected. They actually mixed our nurses missed their graduation ceremony. So our chief of staff actually worked with Columbia to get them robes, and we staged a surprise graduation ceremony in the front yard of our hospital, Columbia's Baker Fieldhouse. And we actually put out flyers in the neighborhood up there, and in the neighborhood, and over 150, 200 people stood outside our fence and cheered as our nurses got their degrees in an informal, graduation ceremony. And it's just like the love we felt. And New York is a hard place to understand if you're not from there, but it is a very lovely place. It's full of really lovely people. And they're tired of being told they're the enemy. They're still being told by national political leaders that it's a a hellhole. It's like you're right. And so circling back to that, you do have to. I mean, how can you run for office thinking that a good chunk of your own constituents are evil or bad, or that it's impossible to lead? And that's led to that note. I saw you had a flood of. Well, I guess we should ask that question. For those who don't know, let's say, what does run for something do? Let's start there.
Run for Something recruits and supports young, diverse leaders running for local office all across the country. We got started on Trump's first inauguration day back in 2017, along with my co-founder, Ross Morales Raqueto, and we thought it would be really small. We thought we'd get maybe 100 people who want to run in the first year. Forgive my dog. She's just
Love it. Oh, this is a dog-friendly environment.
love that.
we thought we'd get 100 people in the first year. This would be such a fun hobby. Instead, we got 1,000 people in the first week. As of today, we've had more than 225,000 young people all across the country who've raised their hands to say they want to run. And more than 60,000 of them signed up since the November election. We've had more people sign up in the last now 9 months than we did in the entire first 3 years of Trump's first term. 10,000 of them signed up in the 2 weeks after Mamdani won. Zoran winning was one of our biggest drivers of candidate recruitment ever.
And what are you hearing? What flipped the switch?
I think for folks, it was a couple things. One, it was seeing somebody young who lived like them, worked like them, used the internet like them, said able to win and really show that the establishment is not unbeatable. They only go unchallenged, which I think is really important. Two, I think hearing someone talk about the issues that they experienced, talking about housing and childcare in a way that they could hear and understand, that felt comprehensible, that is so powerful. And three, I think it really hammered home for folks. These local offices, things like mayor, city council, school board, library board, the offices that run for something, has now helped elect more than 1,500 people in 49 states plus DC, all millennials and Gen Z. Those are the positions where if you run and win, you can transform people's lives.
Yeah. Yeah. And it starts there. And it's a great place to learn politics, and you can't learn it better than that local race and that understanding. I mean, what are some of the issues you see some of these young people and others, and not all of them are young, right? What are they really running on now? And what's driving them to make that stuff? Because I always tell candidates when they're on here, we just had I'm interviewing several candidates now for our In the Hot Seat series. I always tell them, I was like, what are some of the issues that really drive them to do that, to step up?
Number one issue we're hearing, and it's been true for a couple years now, but in particular, housing, cost of housing, and especially from the perspective of a renter or a first-time home buyer. The experience you have as a 20 or 30 something entering the housing market right now is totally different than that of someone else. That doesn't mean
That itch.
it doesn't mean that one is better than the other, but the experience is just so different. And having elected leaders who understand that because they've lived it can really be transformative for conversations around policy. We're also hearing a lot about childcare. We hear a ton about schools, book bans, public school teachers, protecting public schools, standing up for kids with disabilities or special needs. We hear a lot, of course, about healthcare, and I would bucket under that reproductive healthcare, gender affirming care, all of the other mental health care, all of the different ways in which we interact with the healthcare system, or wish we could better interact with the healthcare system.
That makes a lot of sense. And those are local issues. We fight at the national level, but people don't realize those are where they're being fought. The community hospitals closing, the folks are being, that's at the local level. You've also been, you're very public in demanding Democrats seek a new kind of leadership, right? You've been saying, hey, we need bold, values driven, deeply connected lived experience. And it doesn't necessarily have to be young. I've got kids that age. I understand what they're going through, right? It's like, excuse me. I mean, tell me about that. What's driving that conversation? What are you demanding? What would you hope to see from leadership?
I think we need leaders who understand the crisis that we are in. We need leaders who so vividly and unapologetically understand the Republicans are not good faith partners in governance. This is not the Republican Party of George W. Bush or John McCain or Mitt Romney. This is Trump's party top to bottom. And if we don't see that and understand who our opposition is, we're not going to be able to fight them on the terms that we need to be fighting. And we need leaders who understand how to communicate in the modern media environment. I mean, you understand this. This isn't necessarily an age thing, but I do think, growing up on the internet certainly
Yeah.
helps. But understand how to use YouTube, podcasts, TikTok, Instagram, know how to use the tools that people get information from. Because you can tell when it's not a politician or not an elected official or candidate who genuinely runs their own Instagram account or uses TikTok. Going back to Mamdani for a moment, he had a video out earlier this week where he's straight to camera talking about it. He opened TikTok after he got home from a long day, and he saw this clips that someone had made of him saying ultimately over and over again, and his staff had been telling him not to do that. And it wasn't really the point of the video, but this is a guy that uses TikTok the way normal people do. He's a consumer, which allows him to be a producer in a way that feels genuine to the platforms. And like it or not, that's a skill that a politician needs right now. And I think more than anything else, we need candidates and elected leaders who so clearly have a value system. It doesn't mean I have to agree with them on every policy issue. I don't agree with most politicians on every policy issue. Most voters don't. But when the candidate or elected has the things that they believe, they are able to hold their shape when all the other stuff bounces off of them.
Right.
Like, have a sense of self. And that means they can have long conversations, short conversations, do fun viral videos, like be present and can have a conversation with a voter who they may not agree with on the specifics, but they can understand where those values are coming from and how they're going to make a decision. And I think more so than anything else, that is the thing that so many Democratic leaders and honestly the Democratic Party right now is missing is we don't have a sense of self. I mean, you don't have a sense of self, you can't make the case for forward vision.
Yeah, and it's funny how often I've talked to many campaigns and candidates. I've been a staffer for candidates, and I'll have a candidate say, let's sit down and come up with my policy list and the consultants, the expensive consultants from DC. We know their names. I won't mention them here. You know who you are.
Yeah.
They come in and let's do some focus groups. Here's your three policy perspectives. For our groups. It's like, okay, but what do you care about? It's like, I had a good friend who ran in Congress, and he was a perfect example of this. He was like, I'll tell you, Eugene Vindman. And it was like, yeah, but what about I-95? And they look puzzled. Like, what do you mean? Like, well, I-95 goes to the middle of Virginia 7, and it is the worst traffic jams in the country. Everything says LA and is in New York. It's not. I-95 north of Stafford County, Virginia. You've never even heard of that place, right?
Oh, I
Has
grew up there.
27.
Right.
Oh, I didn't know that. I used to live in Fredericksburg. So, hey, neighbor. And they have 27 traffic jams a day. It's the most traffic jam stretch of highway in America. And I remember Eugene going, I can't get to work. Isn't that an issue? No, we didn't, so it's a perfect example of understanding where you're running, that this is an issue. I live in the Missouri 2nd Congressional District, for example. There's 5 or 6 rivers that border and run through the district. Maybe we should talk about water. We just had 1,000-year flood, right? So you're right. They do have to listen. And by the way, that comes from listening. It's not focus groups. It's literally being open to hear. And by the way, it also means, and one of the things I heard about Mondani's campaign, my dear friend, John Della Volpe, who I think you probably know John Della Volpe, dear friend, he was on the show 2 weeks ago. I actually visited him when I was up in Cambridge, and he wrote a great piece about his win, and a lot of it was he just listened. The idea for free buses wasn't actually his idea. People talked to him, right?
And I think like this is the thing that wouldn't, right now, especially Democrats in Congress are struggling. Like, what do we talk about? About USAID, we talk about the cuts to Medicaid, we talk about this, we talk about that. I want you to talk about the thing you're genuinely mad about. Tell me that and that you as a politician, as a person, not even as a politician, as a person, are genuinely mad about. Because more so than anything else, that authentic feeling, that rage, that fury, or that fear, like that's gonna come through. And the thing that you are mad about is also the thing that a bunch of your community members are mad about. And if you are in touch with your community, you're going to be hearing that. Like it's a feedback loop. I think that is the thing that we miss when we focus exclusively on like what messages, poll test better, what are the focus groups here? Like that should be one input that shouldn't be the only or even the loudest input. Because man, can voters smell it when it is.
Right. Right, genuine. And so, circling, I would be remiss if we didn't talk about this. We had a special election in Arizona. Deja Fox ran a compelling campaign. She nationalized the special elections. Is really hard to do. A lot of the things that you were championing, she spoke well, young, digitally native, all those things. She did win. She came up short against the daughter of the sitting congressman, who is an elected official herself in her own right and has a main. What are the kind of lessons are you pulling away from that? Have you thought about? I don't know, it's only been like 2-3 days. Are you guys pulling any lessons? Were you involved? Did you help Deja step up, or I'm sure you kept an eye on it though?
So Run for Something doesn't work on congressional races, but I did.
Oh, that's right. Sorry, I should know that.
No, no, no.
Bad host. Bad host.
Well, my personal capacity, I'm talking to a lot of folks running for Congress.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Find their way to my inbox. And I talked to Deja before she ran, and we were in touch throughout her campaign. I think she was a really good example of the kind of person who knew her personal story and knew what she was running for. And
Yeah.
running in a congressional primary for a first-time candidate is so hard. I would like, and I want to hammer this home for folks. There's a reason Run for Something only works on local races. I think those are really powerful places to get the experience you need to become a candidate and become a politician. And I told Deja this first time out too. Most first-time candidates for Congress lose. For every AOC who surprises the world, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of first-time candidates who challenge, whether it's a sitting incumbent or someone with like deep legislative experience, and come up short. It takes time and practice. I think Deja, there were some things around the edges that she maybe could have done a little bit differently, could have talked about policy a little bit differently. There's a lot of stuff, but it was also very unique circumstance for her campaign. very short window. Even the window from when they announced it to get on the ballot was very quick. I'm not sure she had a long-term life plan to run for office, and so maybe hadn't.
Yeah.
And
Does anybody? Eh.
um, um, there was like a really tough dynamics in that race in which a lot of the
Yeah.
candidates were pretty ideologically aligned. So it had to be about personal story. Now, I think for folks looking at a race and thinking, what can I take away from them? What was done well? What could I do differently? I do think one of the things Deja did was inspire young people to care about a race that they might not otherwise. That's really meaningful. And I think she pushed the issues forward and pushed the conversation forward in a powerful way. Adelita is going to be a great member of Congress. The district is going to be well served by her leadership. And I hope that other elected leaders who are maybe in similar circumstances as, the now passed away Raul Grijalva, who maybe shouldn't have run with cancer in the first place, shouldn't have run in his late 70s in the first place, and can say, what can I do to make sure that my successor is well set up to succeed? How can they leave a lasting legacy? How can they go out on their terms in a way that sets their community up to be well represented in continuity? Because the fact that Arizona 7 was left without a voice in Congress for even a couple months does that community a disservice. That's why I've called on elected official over 75 to make this their last term and open the doors to new leadership because it's time.
Right. It is. It is. It is absolutely time. There's nothing wrong with that. By that same token, you hit on a few of the. She got a ton of momentum, and at the end of the race, she came up at a strong second. It wasn't a loss. She didn't get kicked out. I mean, she nationalized a special election in a very unique way with her large following and using those tools effectively. I guess on that side of it, what are some of the lessons that can translate in other national races? And look, you said it very clearly. I'm not young. I'm going to be 60 here soon. I can't believe I said that on post. But I've been a digital native myself. Hell, I ran the Army social media program in 2008, right? So what are some of the lessons that people can learn that they can also use, you think, for local races and maybe even occasional congressional races, you think?
I think both any of these candidates right now that you're seeing run are doing something really different, which is that they are showing up online where young people get information. All people get information at this point, but especially young people.
Right, everybody. Like I would argue my audiences were older.
That's great.
I'll leave it at that.
I think about my grandparents or my parents, like they're listening to podcasts too. They're scrolling Instagram reels. They're
Board coders.
their TikTok feeds look old. My parents are on TikTok, but their algorithms are a little bit different than mine, but they're still getting algorithmically served stuff too. Think about how you can be present in those places, how you can have honest conversations with folks, how you can leverage your personal story, and how you can tie it back to what you're going to do for the community. Now, the number one thing Run for Something tells candidates when you're running for office is you need to be able to answer the question, why should voters want you to win? Which is different than why you want to win. You want to win because winning is great and losing sucks. Voters want you to win because you're going to do something for them. You're going to make their life better in some meaningful way. You're going to deliver something they can feel. Leadership, and I write about this in my book, When We're in Charge too. Leadership is not about the leader, it's about the people being led. And if you keep that in mind, if you keep that at the heart of your campaign, everything else begins to make sense and can be told in a better way.
I love that. And that is really the thing, isn't it? It is not just, it's understanding their lived life. It's
Yep.
understanding the challenge they face. And then, like you said, listening and being genuine about your own experiences. Those two. I love it. Those are all great lessons learned. So we've been talking for a while. We talked about Run for Something. I guess the most important thing is what's next for you guys and where can people find out more information?
So Run for Something is working with at least about 300 campaigns currently up in 2025, and we are actively recruiting for 2026. So if you're watching this and you're thinking about running, no matter what age you are, you can go to runforwhat.net. You can look up what offices you might be able to run for in 2026. We just launched this amazing new community space with a bunch of curriculum and training and connections to other candidates available for folks of all ages in all states running for all kinds of offices. Once you're actually running, if you want to apply for our endorsement, that's where our age restriction really comes into play. We focus our staff time with people who are younger and experiencing things in a very specific space in life.
Yeah.
But we would love to help you run. If you want to support the work that we're doing, we run the biggest candidate pipeline in politics, working with more races than basically any other organization in the country, in more places, with more different kinds of people. So you can go to runforsomething.net. You can give, you can volunteer. We would love to have you as part of our team.
And it was runforwhat.net as well.
Runforwhat.net is where you look up what to run for. Runforsomething.net is where you find out more about the organization.
I love it. Well, I tell you, man, I've been dreaming to get you on the show. I can't tell you, thank you enough for being here with us.
Any
Midas Marty loves it. You guys, so important what we're doing. I gotta tell my guests, and I tell everybody, local is where it happens. Local. So it's so many times. It's funny. I helped a congressional race one time, and the guy kept going to houses, and every house he knocked on would be things like, that curb's been broken for 2 years. And not the Congress that fits that. Well, did you vote in the local election? Why? Because your curb's been broken for 2 years. We have a wonderful mayor in my town. Missouri has a unique thing that we don't run. It's not it's apolitical. It's one of those non-political, like Georgia's the same way. Local offices are not. But by the way, that's an important point, isn't it? Right, Amanda? I mean, we'd be remiss to make that point that in many, many, many states, I'm not sure how many, there is no party affiliation for local races, is there?
That's right. A lot of these races are nonpartisan. Run for something endorses in those races. It is really important why you build relationships with voters one to one on these local elections because they don't have the party
Yeah.
to identify how to vote.
Yeah, my fiance and I are joking. We have no idea what our mayor's political affiliation is at all, but we do know he keeps us informed. He's completely revamped the social media for the city, so now we're getting breaking news from our city, which is amazing. When it wasn't used, so it is in the end, it's about service, right? Servitude and loving where you live and making it better. And I think that's what we do. So Amanda, thank you for helping good people run. Thanks for being a part of the show. I really appreciate it, and I look forward to talking some more.
Anytime, Fred. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us. What a great conversation. I love talking to Run for Something. This is my second time talking to him. I've never talked to Amanda before. There's a lot to talk about. Yeah, these conversations are survive, and there's some great lessons. Look, you see it, okay? Run for something. It's go, and I'm going to put that website back up. It's runforwhat.net. That's where you can go and you can actually answer a survey. I've seen it. I've walked through it a few times with folks. What's out there? What's in your area? What could you run for? What fits your needs? And of course, their website is runforsomething.net as well. Look, this is the time, folks. If you're asking yourself, can I do something? Can I step up? You're worried about your past or whatever it may be. And as we call them the biz, oppo, we've all got it. Okay. At this point, we've all got something. Okay. And either you have to accept it and be ready when they try to hurt you and ruin your life with it, or you say, yeah, okay, that's called living life and it happens. But if we don't get people who run for office who have lived life and experienced harm and made mistakes, we're going to have a country that goes down the tubes. And the truth is, what we find out once they're in office is that they did have things and they did do things. Ask about Representative Corey Mills and his $20,000 apartment in Washington, D.C. that just happens to have a woman who's not his wife use the same address. I'm sure that was happening before he got elected. So if you think you've got a past and you should run, well, just run, and have at it, because we desperately need leaders who care about the places they live. Take away the label socialist, lefty, libtard, centrist, whatever the label may be, and just be you. And in many ways, if you read the articles about how Zoran Mamdani won, it wasn't the socialist label or the free buses. He was genuine. He was him. And when he met people, they said, oh, that guy's the real thing. That's who he is. And that matters nowadays because too many of us are being served up fake people. Andrew Cuomo lost handily, barely campaigned, didn't feel he needed to. He was Andrew Cuomo. So now he's coming back out to put out an apology saying, I'm so sorry that people supported me. I should have done better. I'm all about affordability now. Is he really? Because he was the governor and didn't care. He was a candidate for mayor and for the primary and didn't care. But suddenly, since his opponent won on affordability and other issues, suddenly he cares. It's not going to help them. Okay. Because there's still so many in politics think it's about the issues and not the experiences. It's about the talking points and not the losses and lived parts of our lives. And you can't talking point your way through a person who can't get to work on public transportation as their only option because it's unaffordable for them. You can't talk your way through a family member who's losing their Medicare and their Medicaid. You can't talk your way through grandma being kicked out of a nursing home that closed because 60% of the beds that they had were under Medicaid. And when they put in work requirements where you had to upload documents every month, even to prove you weren't working because you were waived, you still have to prove it. And 82-year-olds aren't great at the computer. So now grandma's been booted out of the nursing home. It's closed. You can't talk your way through that with talking points. So I urge you, if you're considering running, you should go for it. It's worth it. It's scary. It's the hardest thing you'll ever do. But in a certain sense, my God, America, We need people who've lived life and are ready to talk about it. So with that, it's been a great conversation. I love seeing you guys every Friday night. It's wonderful to be here. As always, you can find us at, we have a great new website for all the On Democracy things. It's on the Too Late to Cancel website. If you know our show every Sunday, I've got a great show this weekend. My friend Shan Wu's going to join us to talk about the Epstein files and all the legal things you can think of. We'll have two great comedians. My friend Chanel Ali's coming back again. You'll love it. It's a fun time every Sunday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific. I hope you'll check it out. It's on the toolate-to-cancel.com website, my YouTube, our Substack. As always, I'd love, absolutely love for you to subscribe to our Substack. It is free. I'd love you to upgrade, but in the meantime, it's f2wellman.substack.com. Thank you, Midas Minor, for being a part of this. This is On Democracy F2 Wellman exclusively on the Midas Touch Network, now 7 billion views strong because of you guys who watch this show and all the shows. Friday night's our time to be together, and I love seeing you and hanging out with you when I get the chance. So in the meantime, I will see you next week. Same bad channel, same bad place. I'm Fred Wellman, and this is On Democracy.